Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of the latest scientific research and functional medicine findings and distill it down to the blueprint you need to optimize your health.
Today, we are undertaking a really critical deep dive into a system that affects half the population and is, I think it's fair to say, hugely misunderstood: the female hormonal cycle.
Okay, let's just jump right in and unpack this, because the central idea we're pulling from our sources today feels pretty radical.
It really is.
This idea that severe period pain, crippling migraines, these constant mood swings, that all of this is just part of the deal for women.
That's normal.
Exactly, that it's normal. Our sources are saying that's a fundamental misrepresentation of health.
It's one of the greatest pieces of medical misinformation that has persisted for decades. The truth is, and all the functional research points to this, if your cycle is healthy, it should be relatively symptom-free.
So all those interruptions to your life.
The cramps that send you home from work, the bleeding that has you changing protection every hour, those are not your baseline. They are immediate, undeniable red flags.
Red flags that something is out of balance.
Precisely. A systemic imbalance that needs to be addressed.
So our mission today is to give you that operating manual. We want to move beyond the idea of the cycle as a hindrance and start viewing it as this powerful blueprint.
A blueprint for maximized strength, energy, and really a varied set of capabilities throughout the month. We'll get into the 4 phases, the hormones driving them, and crucially, the modern lifestyle factors that are, unknowingly sabotaging that balance.
And this is essential for everyone, not just for women.
Absolutely. If you're a parent, a partner, a manager, understanding these predictable hormonal shifts is the key. It's how you manage relationships, provide support, and just foster well-being for the people in your life.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. We have to reframe the period itself. Culturally, we're sort of conditioned to see it as a nuisance, right?
A necessary evil at best, or a curse at worst. But the sources we're looking at suggest it's far more vital. It's a profound protective mechanism.
How so? Protective in what way?
Well, one source described it as a gift. It serves the biological imperative, of course, but it also protects the health of the woman who is cycling. And here's the aha moment.
Okay.
Studies show that up until menopause, women who are cycling have a demonstrably lower risk of things like heart disease and hypertension compared to men of the same age.
Wow. So it's not just about fertility, it's a cardiovascular shield.
It literally is. And once menopause happens and that hormonal environment shifts, the risk factors start to equalize with men's. So when your cycle is working properly, it's the ultimate barometer of your overall wellness. It tells you your whole system is running well.
So if it's such a powerful indicator, why has it taken so long for medicine to catch on? Why do we accept this misery narrative?
I think it's a systemic failure of research. For most of the 20th century, research focused on male models. They were simpler, more linear.
The default human, basically.
Exactly, the default. The complexity of the female cycle, this month-long wave, has only really been studied in depth for the last decade or so. So we've been living with this general acceptance of severe pain as just something you deal with.
And now science is finally confirming what women have probably known intuitively for a long time.
That level of suffering is a sign that something is wrong.
To really get this, I think we need to do that direct comparison. The male versus the female hormonal experience. It really clarifies why women aren't built for that same constant linear output.
The contrast is fundamental. The male hormonal cycle is simple. It's linear. It runs on a consistent 24-hour rhythm.
The daily grind we all know.
Precisely. Testosterone and cortisol start to climb around 6 a.m., giving you that morning energy. They peak solidly midday.
So that's the best time for big meetings, negotiations.
Yes. High-level decision-making, intense focus. That consistent daily peak allows men to perform with pretty much the same energy every single day.
And then comes the evening crash.
They drop off, leading to that desire to just shut off, crash on the couch. Their best workouts are usually in the morning, riding that hormonal surge. It's a very consistent, predictable system.
But the female cycle, you called it a wave. It's monthly, not daily.
And that hormonal diversity is its true strength. Women aren't metabolically or cognitively designed to be the same person every single day. The fluctuation of estrogen and progesterone allows you to cycle through different optimized states.
So one week you might be better at deep analytical work.
And the next, you're optimized for high social connection, and the week after that for profound introspection. It's a powerful cyclical adaptability.
Which means the core principle we need to get is that trying to force a linear 24-hour performance standard onto a 28-day wave
Is inherently stressful. It leads to
is
imbalance.
fighting your own biology.
Exactly. The key is to surrender to the wave, not fight it. If you try to maintain high-intensity training when your body needs rest, you're introducing chronic stress and sabotaging your own hormonal balance. Understanding this is the difference between struggling and thriving.
Okay, so if the cycle is our blueprint, let's get into the specifics. What does that blueprint actually look like week by week? Let's break down those 4 phases.
All right. We'll start at day 1, which is the start of menstruation, and we cycle through 4 distinct periods: menstruation, follicular, ovulatory, and luteal. And everything, what you eat, how you move, even what meetings you should schedule, changes significantly.
So phase 1, menstruation. Day 1 to, what, day 5 or 7?
Oh.
Hormones are at their lowest point. Energy is naturally down.
Especially on days 1 and 2, yes. But this low hormonal state isn't weakness. It's a profound redirection of energy inward. Because estrogen, the logic hormone, is low, the analytical side of the brain is less dominant.
Which means what takes over?
Your intuition. The right side of the brain, emotion, instinct, creativity, it takes the lead. This is the time for deep reflection and radical creativity.
So great for brainstorming, seeing the big picture, but maybe not for putting out fires at work.
Exactly. This is not the ideal time for major decisions that require heavy logical calculation or external confrontation. Your intuition is your strongest asset here.
So you should be using this time to evaluate things. Relationships, life trajectory.
Yes, go with your gut feeling. It's the loudest it will be all month. If you force a big financial decision now, you risk being overly sensitive or making a choice based on fatigue rather than clarity.
So push the big negotiations till later in the month.
Absolutely. Here you're collecting data through reflection, not executing strategy.
And movement. We have to respect that low energy. What does that look like?
It looks like rest. You have to avoid intense, high-impact activities. Forget the HIIT class or heavy strength training.
Why
Because the body is doing essential work internally. It's healing the uterine wall. You need supportive, gentle movement. Think walking, restorative yoga, Pilates. The goal is circulation, not strain.
And nutrition has to be super supportive, right?
Yeah.
To make up for what the body is losing.
Yes, we're in a state of loss and recovery. The 2 critical nutrients are iron, to replenish blood loss, and vitamin C.
Iron makes sense. Why vitamin C?
It's essential for collagen production, which helps the uterine wall tissue heal and recover rapidly. Think nourishing, warm foods that are easy on the digestive system.
Okay, so once the flow stops, we move into the follicular phase. This is often described as a fog lifting.
It's a major hormonal inflection point. Estrogen and testosterone start to rise significantly, building toward ovulation. As estrogen climbs, you feel mental clarity return. We call it the logic hormone for a reason.
You feel sharper, more confident.
Exactly. More resilient and much more receptive to new ideas. Your brain is ready to fire again.
So what's the best use of this newfound mental energy?
This is your initiation phase. It's the ideal time for planning, research, brainstorming, and starting new projects. You're great at taking in new information and outlining the complex strategy you maybe identified intuitively during menstruation.
So we're planning, but are we ready for the big confrontation yet? The big ask?
Not quite the confrontation. We're building the scaffolding now. Think of this phase as the time to create the perfect presentation, draft the negotiation points, prepare the budget.
The final execution comes later.
Yes, that belongs to the ovulatory phase, when confidence hits its absolute peak.
And movement. If energy is rising, we should lean into that intensity again.
This is your window for aggression and power. The hormonal environment supports high-intensity workouts without leading to the same adrenal fatigue. This is the time for HIIT, kickboxing, aggressive runs. Your body is fortified to handle it.
And the fuel to sustain that.
The focus has to be on strength and steady energy. So prioritize high protein intake. It's essential for stabilizing blood sugar. And crucially, pair that protein with complex carbohydrates.
So things like sweet potatoes, quinoa, lentils, not bread and pasta.
Exactly. You need that slow, sustained energy release. Simple sugars will just cause a crash and compromise that beautiful mental clarity estrogen is giving you. We want steady fuel for steady focus.
Which brings us to phase 3, ovulatory, the peak. Estrogen and testosterone are at their maximum. What does that feel like?
Confidence is at its highest point. Energy is maxed out, social skills are optimized, and what's really powerful here is that both sides of the brain, the logic from estrogen and the intuition from menstruation, are working together.
So you're the most articulate, focused, confident version of yourself.
Unequivocally, this is the moment for high-stakes
A
interactions.
time to ask for the raise.
Or deliver the big presentation, or have that difficult but important conversation with a partner. You are hormonally wired for maximum impact and communication effectiveness.
But I have to ask, what if I get to this ovulatory peak and I'm still tired? Is that a red flag in itself?
That is a critical question. And yes, it's an immediate secondary red flag. It usually points to one of two things. Either chronic inflammation and stress have just depleted your adrenals, or it could signal an underlying blood sugar issue.
So you're not properly using the energy you're taking in.
Right. You should be firing on all cylinders here. If you're not, the imbalance is deeper than just cycle timing.
Assuming energy is high, movement stays intense.
Yes. Maintain that high-intensity training. The body can handle it.
And nutrition.
High protein, and in this phase, you really want to incorporate high-quality, healthy fats.
Why fats specifically now?
Healthy fats are the building blocks of hormones themselves. So eating avocados, nuts, seeds, quality olive oil, you're supporting the peak synthesis of estrogen and testosterone.
Okay, then comes phase 4, the luteal phase, the long descent towards menstruation. This is often the trickiest part of the month.
Yes, we enter the era of high progesterone. Progesterone is often called the chill hormone. It creates a natural desire for calm, for introversion, for nesting.
The body is focusing its resources internally.
It is. It's building the uterine wall, which leads to a natural pull away from demanding social or external activities.
But then comes the PMS window at the end of this phase. What is happening hormonally that causes that predictable shift into irritability and tearfulness?
It's the hormonal cliff dive. Estrogen drops sharply first, and then progesterone follows. This steep, rapid decline in both major hormones is what triggers the classic PMS symptoms.
So it's a physiological crash, not an emotional failure.
That is such an important distinction. It is not a moral failing. For partners, understanding this is key. When you see that shift, it's a signal to eliminate unnecessary stressors. Don't start an intense discussion.
Mentally, what are we best suited for during this inward nesting phase?
This is the ideal time for analytical tasks and deep focus on details. Reading reports, organizing closets, paying bills, wrapping up the projects you started in the follicular phase. It's time for deep, solo work.
Let's talk about the big one for this phase. Sugar cravings. We're taught to see this as a sign of weakness.
And that's a critical error. The craving is scientifically rooted. The body is doing an enormous internal task building the uterine wall, and that requires a lot of fuel, specifically glucose. The craving is a legitimate physiological energy demand.
So the body is asking for energy. How do you tell the difference between that real need and just an emotional craving for junk food?
Well, that's the work, isn't it? The physiological need is best met by sustained, healthy energy. The emotional craving wants that quick-hit junk food that leads to a crash. You have to honor the demand for glucose, but do it smartly.
And you mentioned something surprising about weight loss in this phase.
Yes. Because the body is working so hard internally, your metabolic rate actually increases during the luteal phase. You're burning more energy at baseline. So paradoxically, if you fuel correctly, weight loss can actually be a bit easier.
So how do we fuel that demand without turning to inflammatory processed sugars?
You focus on nutrient density. Vitamin B6 is great for mood stabilization. You find it in salmon and chickpeas. And you want complex forms of sugar.
Like fruits, dates.
Fruits, a limited amount of dates, high-quality dark chocolate, so 70% cocoa or more.
Let's talk about dates for a second. They're a great natural energy source.
They are excellent, but you still need boundaries. The general recommendation is about 5 dates a day, and always pair them with a healthy fat, like walnuts or almonds.
Why the fat?
The fat acts like a speed bump. It slows the absorption of the sugar, stabilizes your blood sugar, and prevents that sharp peak and crash.
And finally, movement in the luteal phase. It sounds like we need to scale it way back.
You have to decrease the intensity. The body is less forgiving of intense strain now. Switch to restorative practices. Walking, swimming, low-intensity strength training. Respect that inward shift.
Okay, so we've mapped out the ideal cycle. But let's zero in on when things go wrong. Let's clearly define those red flags we mentioned, the signs that require real investigation, starting with pain.
Right. The first and most ignored red flag is severe pain. A healthy cycle should only involve, mild cramping. A slight heaviness in the pelvis, maybe one Tylenol.
So what's the threshold for abnormal?
If you are experiencing pain that makes you miss work, causes vomiting, or requires frequent high-dose painkillers like ibuprofen 600 milligrams multiple times a day, that is abnormal. It's a clear sign of high systemic inflammation.
Red flag number 2 is about flow. Heavy or profuse bleeding.
This means your cycle is so heavy it actively interferes with your life. You have to stay home, you're changing pads every hour, you're passing large clots.
And that's dangerous beyond the inconvenience.
Absolutely. It leads directly to iron deficiency and anemia, which creates a vicious cycle of fatigue and low energy. If you feel dizzy on your period, that heavy flow is a massive red flag.
And the final flag, irregularity. What are the boundaries for a healthy cycle length?
A healthy cycle should fall consistently between 21 and 45 days. Anything shorter or longer, or cycles that just skip months or even years, a condition called amenorrhea that tells you the communication between your brain and ovaries is disrupted.
So when these flags appear, where do we even start? Our sources point to the 4 pillars of health.
And they are non-negotiable. You cannot fix a hormonal cycle, which is a downstream symptom, without fixing the upstream environment. You have to address all 4: nutrition, sleep, movement, and nervous system regulation.
Let's drill down on the pain again. You said the root cause is high inflammation. Can you explain that mechanism with prostaglandins?
Sure. Inflammation is the body's response to stress or damage. When it's chronically high, your body produces high levels of inflammatory chemicals called prostaglandins. These prostaglandins are what make your pain receptors more sensitive and increase uterine contractions.
So more inflammation equals more prostaglandins, which equals more pain.
It's a direct correlation. Severe pain is simply the physical manifestation of a highly inflamed internal environment.
And what in modern life is driving that inflammation?
The major culprits are everywhere. Chronic stress, of course, but also our modern diet. Highly processed foods, simple sugars, and inflammatory refined oils, especially the hydrogenated oils used in deep frying.
And this seems to be a perfect storm for adolescents, right?
Mm-hmm.
They face so many stressors at a crucial time.
It's a crisis. They have intense academic pressure, the constant body image stress from social media, and chronic, severe lack of sleep. And on top of that, their nutrition is often terrible.
Skipping breakfast, living on energy drinks.
Exactly. They skip meals, which destabilizes blood sugar, and then they often do intense exercise for sports or dance without refueling properly with protein and complex carbs. It puts the body in a state of chronic stress and deficit.
And we can't talk about inflammation without talking about the gut. What's the link there?
It's a profound link. A diet low in fiber and green vegetables leads to something called dysbiosis, where harmful bacteria overpower the good bacteria in your gut. A dysfunctional gut constantly leaks inflammatory chemicals into your bloodstream.
Which then increases the prostaglandins.
And directly, inevitably, makes your period pain worse. Repairing the gut often leads to a massive reduction in pain.
Okay, let's move to the deeper systemic threats. We know stress is a problem, but what is the exact mechanism by which chronic stress sabotages our hormones?
Well, chronic stress, that feeling of being rushed and overwhelmed for months or years, it's the primary disruptor. It causes a sustained state of what we call estrogen dominance.
Okay, hold on. I need to clarify that. Does estrogen dominance mean my estrogen levels are just too high?
Not necessarily, and that's a really common misconception. Estrogen dominance primarily means that chronic stress consistently lowers your progesterone levels.
How did that happen?
Both estrogen and progesterone come from the same hormonal building blocks. When you're chronically stressed, your body prioritizes making cortisol, the stress hormone, and it uses up those building blocks to do it.
So it's stealing the resources that should be going to progesterone.
Exactly. It's often called the pregnenolone steal. Progesterone is what balances estrogen. So when it's low, the effects of estrogen go unchecked. That's when you get the heavy periods, the extreme PMS, the breast tenderness.
And what about those highly irregular or absent cycles?
Yeah.
You said leaving that unchecked is dangerous.
It's a major concern. If a cycle is absent for months, the uterine wall is still slowly building up under estrogen's influence, but it's not shedding. This can dramatically increase the risk of things like fibroids or polyps. It needs to be cleared out.
Which brings us to the threats from our environment, the xenoestrogens.
These are insidious. Xenoestrogens are chemicals in modern life that are structurally similar to our own estrogen. They can get into our bodies and bind to our hormone receptors.
So they mimic and amplify the effects of our own estrogen.
Exactly, making that estrogen dominant state even worse.
So where are the key sources we need to minimize right now?
We have to start with plastics. They contain things like BPA and BPS. All plastics are a concern, but especially when they are heated.
So that's the hot takeout food in a plastic container.
Microwaving food in plastic, the disposable coffee cup with its plastic lining, the water bottle left in a hot car, all of it is leaching these chemicals.
That feels overwhelming. Can we really avoid all plastic?
Complete avoidance is probably impossible. The goal is minimization, especially avoiding heat. Switch to glass containers for food and a stainless steel water bottle. That alone eliminates a huge amount of exposure.
What about personal care products? We use those every single day.
A massive source. We're talking creams, shampoos, lotions, perfumes. They're applied directly to the skin, which is highly absorbent, so they go right into the bloodstream.
And those nice scented candles and air fresheners.
Highly problematic. Synthetic scented products often use chemicals called phthalates to carry the scent, and phthalates are notorious endocrine disruptors. If you want fragrance, you have to switch to pure essential oils.
Every exposure just adds to the liver's workload.
It adds to the total load, making it harder for your body to clear out the excess hormones and increasing your risk of dominance symptoms.
Okay, let's connect this to PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, which seems to be at epidemic levels.
It's incredibly common. And the key factor that often goes unaddressed is that 70 to 80% of people with PCOS have insulin resistance as the root cause.
So PCOS is fundamentally a metabolic disorder.
That expresses itself through reproductive symptoms, yes.
Can you define insulin resistance simply?
Think of insulin as a key that opens your cell door to let glucose or fuel inside. With insulin resistance, the cells become deaf to that key. The door won't open.
So the sugar is stuck in the bloodstream.
Right. And that forces the pancreas to pump out more and more insulin, which is deeply inflammatory. It's the direct precursor to type 2 diabetes.
What are the noticeable non-reproductive symptoms of insulin resistance?
The classic ones are weight gain, specifically around the abdomen, what people call carrying it in the middle. Also, profound low energy, persistent fatigue, and deep brain fog. You just can't concentrate.
The traditional medical response to irregular cycles is often the birth control pill. But that's not fixing the root cause, is it?
It's a hormonal band-aid. It can be medically necessary in the short term to force a bleed if one hasn't happened in a long time. But it completely overrides your body's natural hormones. It does not treat the underlying insulin resistance or the inflammation that caused the problem in the first place.
So the real long-term solution demands a different approach.
It demands a comprehensive overhaul of those 4 pillars. You have to fix the body's relationship with insulin through diet, sleep, strategic movement, and regulating your nervous system. It takes time and discipline, but it's the only way to achieve true resolution.
Okay, so we've identified the threats. Let's talk about the exit strategy. How does the body actually clear out all this excess estrogen? This starts with the liver, right?
The liver is the hero in hormone clearance. It's the primary organ that breaks down estrogen, tags it for removal, and packages it up to be excreted from the body.
So if the liver is sluggish or overloaded,
It can't eliminate estrogen efficiently. It gets recirculated.
and the symptoms of a sluggish liver would be...
The classic signs of estrogen dominance we've been talking about: very heavy periods, that persistent brain fog, chronic constipation, belly fat, and really tender, painful breasts.
Constipation is an interesting one. How is that linked?
It's absolutely crucial. Once the liver processes estrogen, it sends it to the intestines for removal. If you're constipated, that waste sits in the colon for too long, and bacteria can actually untag the estrogen.
And it gets reabsorbed back into the bloodstream.
Exactly. You are hormonally recycling your estrogen. If you are not having at least 1 complete bowel movement a day, you're making your symptoms worse.
So how do we actively support the liver?
Well, first, eliminate constipation. But second, you need to introduce high amounts of cruciferous vegetables.
Broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale.
Yes, and asparagus. They contain compounds that your body converts into something called DIM, which is a powerful molecule that specifically helps the liver process and eliminate excess estrogen.
And how we cook them matters.
It does. Steaming is the best method. It preserves the most minerals and fiber and keeps those essential compounds intact. Boiling leaches them out. Frying adds inflammatory oils.
Okay, so we support the physical detox. But the biggest disruptor is chronic stress. We have to regulate the nervous system.
We have to. Most of us are living in a constant state of fight or flight. We need to consciously shift into the rest and digest or parasympathetic state. We have to signal safety to our bodies.
What's the simplest, most immediate tool for that?
The breath. Specifically, controlled breathing, where the key is to always lengthen the exhale.
Why the exhale?
A long, slow exhale directly signals to your vagus nerve that the threat is gone and you are safe. It physically forces your nervous system to downregulate.
Can you give us a specific technique?
The 4-6-8 pattern is very effective. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 6, and then exhale slowly for a full 8 counts. Just 5 minutes of this, a few times a day, can literally hit the safety brakes on your nervous system.
Beyond breath, what are some daily habits that can keep us regulated?
Structured disconnection rituals are key. A simple walk outside, journaling for 5 minutes before bed to dump the day's worries.
And the phone, the pre-sleep window.
This is non-negotiable for hormone health. You have to put the phone away at least 30 minutes before sleep. It's not just the blue light. The endless scrolling maintains a constant dopamine rush that overactivates your brain and spikes stress hormones right when you need to be winding down.
You also mentioned visualization.
Yes, spend just a few minutes in the morning visualizing your day as calm and measured, even if it's busy. You're mentally programming your pace, which helps reduce your reactivity to stress later on.
And we can't forget the simplest tool of all.
Hydration. It sounds too simple, but when you are dehydrated, your body chemistry is slightly off, which lowers your tolerance for daily stressors. You become more reactive. It's the lowest hanging fruit for nervous system stability.
This has been an incredibly deep dive. I think the major takeaway is a huge paradigm shift. We are not meant to suffer through our cycles. The misery we've accepted as normal is the body screaming for support.
The key message is that period pain is a critical warning sign. Your body needs attention, usually across those 4 pillars. And the female cycle is not a weakness. It provides incredible varied strengths throughout the month.
And we now know that so much of modern life, the plastics, the scented candles, the sugar, the stress, it's all actively working against our hormonal balance.
By understanding these patterns and threats, you move from being a passive, frustrated participant in your own body to an informed, proactive manager of your internal environment. You have the operating manual.
So here's our final thought for you to chew on. If we can change deeply ingrained habits like our relationship with sugar or our reliance on plastic, simply by understanding their precise chemical effect on our estrogen levels, what other areas of your life are just waiting for a similar deep dive to unlock a hidden source of strength you didn't even know you possessed?